Yes, I'm Cadillac. I'm the Drama Life Prison Wife. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice, hoping to see justice before it all fades to bleak. Yes, it's your girl Cadillac. Anyways, I'm coming through today, December the 13th, 2023. We might call this Vlogmas because I can't let this be the first year I haven't done Vlogmas since I've been on YouTube. Been back on YouTube since 2020. And you think I'm gonna let Vlogmas pass me by? I did 2020 Vlogmas, 21 Vlogmas, 22 Vlogmas, and now 23. This will be my fourth year of Vlogmas. And so I kind of forgot about it, but we gonna make this entry number one, though it's the 13th. This is Vlogmas Day 13. Okay, so y'all know I work today because I work to live and I live to work. I hustle hard until it hurts. I work my fingers down to the bone. And once I pay my bills, it ain't nothing to come home with. Once I pay my bills, it ain't nothing to come home with. Once I pay my bills, ain't nothing to come home with. Yeah, it's your girl Cadillac. Anyways, y'all already know writing is my forte and creating. So while I was at work today, bored, but I didn't get. Today was a so-so day. It wasn't super duper busy, but it wasn't so slow that you are counting the seconds, the tick, 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 and the clock is in slow motion. It wasn't like that. So I did a good amount of work. And then at the end, after I took my little lunch, because y'all already know it's downhill from there. Once you go to lunch, girl, but I came back, and what kept my mind going was these notes. These notes. Never, I ain't even gonna say it. Never mind. Okay, so I have another topic, y'all. Self awareness. How being unaware of self can complicate and confuse our relationships and at times destroy it altogether. It is my hypothesis that we as humans become unaware of our own actions because our brains are hardwired to protect and defend ourselves. The crazy part is, I do believe it defends and protects ourselves even when we ourselves are in the wrong. This explains how third party onlookers can clearly see the at fault party within a dispute, while the two opposing parties tend to see each other as the culprits. When each opposing party sees just the faults of the opposing party, they tend to take no account of their own faults that contribute to this dispute or the debate. They are blind to their own faults. This is true, for example, when one is in any sort of narcissistic relationship. Y'all know this is what I'm being delivered from narcissistic relationships in my life. I do have that. I have a couple of videos about narcissism where I am comparing our justice system to a narcissistic relationship. And then I have a couple of videos about um, narcissistic energy in my life and what it has done in my life, like what it's caused. Okay, so I'll try to link those in the description box below and y'all can check them out. But this one here, this is a big thing. Okay, narcissistic relationships. I binge watch video after video of Lee Hammock, the self aware narcissist. And he explains how his brain constantly reroutes itself, and finds any way to justify how his own faults or errors in action is someone else's fault. And the reason a narcissist can't admit their own faults is because they're in their mind, they have constructed a false self. Lee refers to it as his self representative. And the representative of the narcissist is completely perfect and flawless. It makes no mistakes and no errors in judgment. So when one tries to hold a narcissistic person accountable for anything, whether big or even small, they immediately go into defense mode to protect their perfect representative. And since their representative is flawless and perfect, there's no way they could be the at fault party. So by default, the other party, has to be wrong. Can you see how that over time can destroy the relationship? And all because one cannot see their part, or they're not aware of self. So they can't see their part in any situation. Many times, if the relationship doesn't end, it becomes where the other person in the relationship overly attempts to keep the peace. That's me. Always trying to keep the peace, girl. And then you still can't keep the peace, which is very challenging because both parties aren't working together. That's what a relationship is, two parties working together to keep the peace. And forget about an outside third party calling the at fault party correctly, because the narcissist will quickly rage to get you to just call it like both parties are at fault. So they'll just say, "All right, both of y'all had a play in this." Rather than put the fault on the narcissist, they're gonna divide the fault. That way, you just can't win. You under no circumstances. Now, in real human relationships, sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes, but in these relationships, it's always you wrong. You're always wrong. And that is what messes with your mental. Okay, so the parties are at fault. So the narcissist can stop raging. So they'll just say, look, both of y'all, so that the narcissist won't rage, right? Or they'll say, both of y'all too old to be arguing. And clearly, you're not arguing. They're arguing. You're just trying to be heard. You're trying to get a word in, and you can't get a word in. You're trying to defend yourself because the narcissist will take the conversation all the way around the world and back, and it won't even be about what you're talking about. That is, and I know all these. Oh, I'm so glad I know all of this because it has made my life so much clearer and understanding so much clearer. They do that to confuse you about what the heck you don't even know what y'all arguing about. It's like taking you around in circles, right? Okay. So they do that so the narcissist can stop raging. This is an attempt for the onlookers to keep the peace, while in momentarily it may settle the dispute, but over time it does nothing. It's like trying to keep a sleeping giant asleep. Can only do that for so long. So 9 times out of 10, that same dispute will arise again. Oh, I didn't know that rhymed though, girl. So why does the narcissistic person do this, basically silencing everyone? Well, so the only voice heard is their own. That's why they do that. It's like going to court and hearing a court hearing, I'm sorry, and they only hear the defense's case. And then they rule in the defense's favor, like without even hearing the other side at all. They hear the defense and then immediately gavel hits the desk and it's in call of the defense. The defense wins, right? That's what it's like. When we go back to our last video, which I did last video about favoritism, the small cracks that cause big divides in the family. Okay, so that was the first instance of a person being unaware of self in a relationship. Now, the next is when we go back to my last video, favoritism, the small cracks that cause the big divides in families. I'll link that as well. Okay, the person usually is a parent, like within favoritism. Favoritism can be between siblings or it could be between other family members. It could be a grandparent that favors other grandchildren over others, but usually it's a parent situation. In my case, it was the parent situation. Okay, the person usually is a parent and is unaware that they do choose favorites amongst their children's. I'm sorry, their children. This action can cause jealousy and competition between siblings and etc. This becomes the golden child and the scapegoat child relationship. Can y'all guess which one I was? I was the scapegoat. I believe these roles become subconscious. So we take on these roles subconsciously. So the parent's conscious mind doesn't know that it's choosing a favorite child. But when the scapegoat points it out or attempts to point this out to their parent, the parent immediately becomes defensive and shuts the scapegoat down. Thus, the scapegoat not being able to get any signal through to the parent, then the parent starts most time starts gathering supporting evidence or supporting facts as to why one child is treated one way and the other is treated another way. And usually the facts makes it that it's the child's fault. Example, oh, it's because you don't excel like your siblings, or you are always getting in trouble and your sibling never does things wrong. Or, like in my case, you are the oldest and you know better. That's why it was always my fault because I was the oldest and I knew better. Even if it was their fault, it was my fault because I'm the oldest. So by default, it's always me. Also, with the dynamic of having a special needs sibling, I had that as well. You are just not being considerate enough. And I remember I was a teenager. Um, it can be just like the example I gave in the narcissistic relationship. Third parties, outside lookers might not be able to, might be, I'm sorry, they might be able to clearly see how the siblings are treated differently, but quickly the parent will shut them off. So the signal will never get through of how one child is being treated in a different way than the other. So that is also being unaware of self, where the parent is not aware because they are not self aware that they are treating members of the family differently, right? Um, we do this as well. Like that was the end of my notes, but I got a lot of examples when they come to work, how we become unaware, unself aware. That's how I want to say it. Unself aware at work. We expect others to, and I didn't write this in notes because I didn't get to it yet, but I would love to write this out because y'all know my conversation is always much better when I got some written and got some bullet points rather than trying to talk off the top of my head. Now, I am self aware. I know that I am not the best at talking straight off my head. So I know that is not one of my strengths. So I do not play into that as a strength. If you told me, Keita, you're not a great public speaker, why would I get defensive? Because I'm not a great public defender. I probably would be a great I'm not a great public speaker, but I am a great writer. So if you come for me talking about, girl, you ain't no good writer, I'm sorry. I'm aware of self. I know what I'm excelling, and you become aware of self when you always have to take a look back. I think it goes back to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So if you would not want this to happen to you, it makes no sense why you participate in doing it to others. If you would not like to be, let's say, go back to the narcissistic relationship, if you would like to not be silenced anytime you have a difference of opinion, or if you want to like everything in the relationship revolved around that person, if you wanted to be in a relationship, sometimes you can take up space. Why don't you think the other person would too? If you didn't want to be picked as the scapegoat child, why do you think the scapegoat child that you're creating the scapegoat child as would want to be that scapegoat child? Like you, and it goes back to what they call empathy. And empathy is basically being able to feel or at least put yourself in the shoes of others. I live by this philosophy. My whole life is set up around how others would think, how others would feel. Like I honestly don't even make a decision until I know how my decision affects everyone around me. But it took me decades to realize that others just don't consider how they affect you. They think about them first, and some possibly might think about you, but most won't. So, getting back to work, oh my gosh, I have had so many, I work with so many unself aware people at work. Just like my current issue and the issue I did in my last job that I had, and I really feel like I feel like most of this stuff is spiritual, right? Because I used to wonder, how do I have the same problem everywhere I go? Like, girl. And then many times things would get hard where I'm working, and I'll be like, well, what's the point in transferring or leaving this job, because the next job is going to be just like that, because I've dealt with this in every job just about. Like, even when I was working at the super center, um, there was favoritism there. And of course, I'm never the favorite, right? We used to have to sort buggies to put things back on the shelf. We would have, it was these two girls. This is a whole nother story time, but one was supposed to be my friend for years. I'm literally thinking we hard down homegirls. And all of a sudden, this other girl shows up from nowhere, and she like says that they went to school together. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. And I don't know if this is with everybody or if it's just with females, but when you have one friend, for some reason, your other friends, you would love for your friends to be friends with your friends, right? And it never works out like that. Most times, the two separate friends are not going to like each other, though they might like you, right? So rather than us being able to all just hang out, I think I was 27 at the time, they were 28, 29. Like, we all grown folks. Like, we were too old for this foolishness. But I noticed that anytime I would talk, like, and me and this friend was always together, always taking lunch together. But then she came along, all of a sudden, this girl that she knew from school started working there, and I thought that we all three could just take lunch together. And I started realizing that anytime I tried to talk, that other friend would cut me off. I could never say anything. And it was a silent thing. It wasn't like she would say, "Hey, stop, Nikita, stop talking because you can't talk." No, these are actions that people do to cut you off. It's very disrespectful, but it's very insidious. It's happening so ever so slightly that you could miss it, right? So, anytime that we would talk, she would cut the conversation off, or she would turn the conversation to whatever she wanted to talk about. I remember it was times that they'll be like, "Are you ready to go to lunch?" And she'll be like, "No." But then the other girl would get ready to go to lunch. And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll go to lunch too." And the minute she found out we were about to go to lunch together, this girl would get, "Oh, never mind. I'm gonna go on to lunch." And only two could go at a time, so I couldn't go. So it was a long time friendship that I thought was a friendship, and then all of a sudden we can't ever talk. We're never like, and I was like, okay, this is not the story. But anyways, so it ended up being to where I was like, you know what? If you can't talk to me or if you can't tell her that, hey, we've been friends, I've been here for you for all this long time, like, girl, then you don't really deserve a friend like me because I'm an honest, genuine person. If you're not gonna treat me correctly, you don't deserve me. And took me a long time to get to this point, but I know my worth now, right? So I was like, she doesn't deserve me, so whatever. So they would be sorting buggies ever so slowly, laughing, giggling, talking. And you know, when people aren't talking to you, you know how they get loud and talk and laugh and joke and act like they're having a real good time because they know you're not having as good of a time because we're Xing you out. So you can't really be having a good time because you're the oddball out, right? But I'm really comfortable in being an oddball out because that's been my whole life, to be honest with you. Since the time I was bullied as a child, right? I've never been accepted. So they would be laughing and talking and being real loud, I guess, to irritate me. And the line would be so long. They would never get on to now I was at a super center, people coming with buggies and buggies. And when I worked overnight, a lot of people would do their food stamp shopping. Those that got food stamps, sometimes they would get a ish load of food stamp, buggy after buggy, and they would never log on. It would be me taking care of the whole line. And it didn't matter how backed up it would get. And then the managers joined into it. They would always just feel like it was okay for me to just ring everybody up and for them to just laugh and talk, right? And that's being unaware of yourself because would you want to do that? Would you want to have to ring everything while others are laughing and talking? But nobody likes to ever spin the wheel or turn the table or put the shoe on their foot, on the other foot. They love to just dish everything out, but they don't want what they dished out, right? They don't want to eat that hot plate, but they dished it out for you. It happened again when I was working in the laundry room. Girl, now this one was weird. So it was with most of the people that worked in the laundry, it was either black or Hispanic. And I hate this. I don't even know why this is a thing, but this is a thing. So it's good and it's bad, but I don't know. So the Hispanic people would only talk to the Hispanic people, right? And then the management was also Hispanic. So what ended up happening was that the managers that was also the same ethnicity would laugh and talk with the lower coworkers, which you're not supposed to do that. If you're not on the same level, you're not supposed to be like congregating because favoritism. Back to that, right? Because anything could be considered favoritism, right? So they would be laughing and talking and kikiing and all types of stuff and barely hanging laundry. Meanwhile, I never really talked to nobody like that. I might say one thing, but anytime I usually open my mouth, they'll be like, "Hey, Keto, stop talking." I'm like, "Y'all just had a whole like mono girl," but whatever. So they would not be really doing too much of anything. And when in a laundry room, you could see who's doing what because you see how much clothes are being um, taken out. Some jobs you can't see who's lacking and who's slacking, but in a laundry room you can because I know how much clothes I hung. I know how much clothes I washed. I know, you have an account for it. So I would just be hanging and hanging and hanging. And then I also had problems with repetitive motion. And so it's really kind of challenging and hurting, and I would go home in pain and all of that. Um, it's a lot of stuff that happened there. And they would just talk behind my back. All they would do is talk, and then they make these little inferences like, why are you hanging like that and stuff like that. Oh, you ain't supposed to hang two shirts in one notch. And really, I was told that you could hang up to two shirts in each notch, but because I hung them at the same time, trying to avoid that constant hanging action, I was cutting my repetitive motion in half by hanging them two by two rather than one by one in each hole. But they didn't like that. They're, oh, well, because you doing that, you keep getting the belt stuck. And I promise, every time the belt would get stuck, I would make sure it wasn't something I hung. Now, the reason I did this is because I have disabilities, but nobody really knew that I had the disabilities because you can't see the disabilities on me. I just did things differently. And they would laugh and talk and blah, 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 blah. But because I'm hanging things two by two and I'm not even talking, y'all are going and telling management. And it's like, it was just a whole, like, would you yourself, when you know we have a team effort and you know we have to get this done, somebody's going to get in trouble if this is not done. Would you want the other person to laugh and talk and congregate the other people on your team while you do everything? Would you like that? Is that a good feeling? Well, then I'm not going to like it either, right? And it was so crazy. It got real bad. It got to the point where they were trying to count every time I went to the bathroom. When it was certain people that were Hispanic, and I hate that it's always like that. Uh, just because we're not the same, don't mistreat others that are not like you. That's the general lesson here. Don't mistreat others just because they're different. She would count how many times I went to the bathroom, right? And most times, mind you, I'm going to the bathroom to rub muscle rub cream all over me or get some ice from the break room and hold it on my neck. Like, this is how I have to work in pain. But because you don't know that, all you know is I'm going to the bathroom. But I don't even be in the bathroom that long, right? And it was a certain girl who was Hispanic would be gone for like 30, 40 minutes, I promise you, just on a bathroom break. But they never noticed that was being very unaware of self. You're doing all this stuff that is causing a divide in the team. We're all a team, whether we were Hispanic or black, we were one team. But you divided the team and then you worked against the other half of the team. You see how being unaware of self just causes so much turmoil in the relationship, in our work relationship, right? Okay, my current I'm dealing with it now too. And it always usually stems back to being disabled like crazy. I've dealt with so much discrimination just by being disabled. So currently, I do have people. I know you can feel it. You can feel it. I know what's being done, right? And the whole basis of why they're mad at me is because y'all know I told y'all a while back about the register. This was maybe 2 years ago when I told you that I was excited. I get scared when I go to a new job because honestly, by me having so many different disabilities, I won't know if I can complete the job until I actually work on the job. Many times I can, many times I can't. Sometimes there's certain things I can't do, but then I try to excel in the things I can do. Now, I'm a good worker. Work ethic, great work ethic. What work ethic was instilled in me by watching my mother and my father go to work every single day in life. I have been a hard worker from the time I even had an employee number. And now I'm realizing hard work don't get you nowhere because the ones that laugh and talk and giggle usually gets the promotions, not the ones that's getting the work done, right? And they're the ones that's not getting in trouble. But because I can do the cash register, right? But when I do something so much that it becomes a repetitive action because of muscle memory and things like that, it hurts. My hands will clog up, choke up, and they won't move. They'll swell, they'll get numb. It's times that when my hands are completely gone, like I can go to sleep, and especially when you're just waking up and you have no blood flow, I can't even pick up my cell phone if my phone rings because my hands are irritated. I'm an artist. Do you know how good it feels to have a graphic design degree? And because of your disabilities, you can't really be put on a payroll to make those projects come out, like pump them out, crank them out, right? So you got to build your own freelance things in the background, right? But you spending your day energy tapping on a cash register, which is swelling your hands up. Then you get home, you can't even pick up your laptop. You can't hold your phone. I'm ready to make a YouTube video. I can't hold my phone. Can't hold my paintbrush. My hands going numb. And it's because I was on a register all day. So it's like my little percentage, because I don't have 100% um, ability in my hands. I really want the doctor to like evaluate how much ability do I have. Do I have 50%? I doubt I even have 50%. I probably got something close to maybe 35% of um, ability in my hands. Sometimes my hands are just there and I can't really use them like that, which is really sad for an artist. It hurts. It really does. So, anyways, with my limited ability, you really want me to always do the register. The one thing that I keep complaining is what is causing inflammation, the register. And ironically enough, nobody else wants to do it. And they really weren't making nobody else do it. They were not. They weren't making nobody else do this register. And I would say, hey, I'm okay with doing the register, but I can't do it all the time. We gotta rotate, guys. Come on now. And at first, I didn't bring in my disabilities, but even if I wasn't disabled, is it still going to be fair that I'm always the one on the register? Even if I had 100% ability, is it fair that I'm always the one on register? No, it's not. We clearly need to take turns because guess what? You're being unaware of self because you would not want to always be on the register every day you come in. And then let's add the pain. Let's say you do have severe carpal tunnel, arthritis, and nerve damage like me. Then would you even touch that register ever? Most likely you wouldn't. But because I bring up these issues, they get mad at me. Like, great, you're mad at me for being disabled. And because I don't have the abilities that you may have, you possibly can do the register way more than I can without even hurting. But I can't. And because I can't, I don't know. It's bad. Like, we really need to start living by that. That's why that is the golden rule. Like, if we did possibly just not, maybe we couldn't do it all the time, but if we just more and more and more gradually just live by that, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Consider others like you would want to be considered. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Speak to others the way you want to be spoken to. Girl, do you know how much better this world would be? But, anyways, I am about to go ahead and go watch this movie that I was just watching this live on YouTube, video on YouTube. And she said that there was this movie called Motives with Shamar Moore. I'm looking at, found out it's from back in 2004. I ain't never see that thing, but she said it was so good. And it was given the lesson of toxic family. So that's the season that I am in, trying to clear out all my relationships. One-way relationships got to go out my life. I can't. They're draining me. Um, if we're mutual, we're good. Long as we're actual mutual, and it's not mutual because you're unaware that it's not mutual, and you won't allow me to tell you that it's not mutual. Right. But all right, guys. I'll talk to you later when I got the next set of notes. All right. Hiss, your girl Cadillac.